Today we're going everything you need to know about ball python care. So ball pythons are a really common animal to get, and they're pretty simple to care for, just all around, ease of care, not very expensive, and a really fun animal to have. If you would like to read all this out, you can go to GoHerping.com/ballpythons. First, we'll just quickly overview the supplies we need, and then we can get started. Paper towel, a spray bottle, snake tongs, some sort of substrate, we'll get into this later, a reptile hide, a water dish, some sort of water conditioner, gauges, a heat lamp, bulbs, accessories, a ball python. Okay, and of course the last thing is a tank. So what I've got right here is a 20-gallon reptile enclosure. In this video, I'm using a top opening glass enclosure, but you can also use aquariums, front opening snake enclosures, wooden enclosures, and more. Now, ball pythons are on the larger side compared to other beginner snakes. However, I'm going to be keeping mine in a 20-gallon for his whole life. He's currently 3 years old. I got him when he was a couple months old. He was my first reptile. And some people might say that this is too small for a ball python's whole life. However, they are very inactive animals. It's just in their nature. It's even in their name, ball pythons. What they do best is ball up. So they really don't need much space to move around. They really don't do much. The only time they move around isn't even while hunting. They just wait for their food to come by. The only time you'll see them really moving is when it's mating season and when the males are looking for a mate. But they won't be doing that in a small enclosure like this unless you are breeding them. So the first thing there is to setting up this tank is the substrate. So you have multiple choices with this. I'm going to be using forest floor bedding made by ZoomEd. It works really well. I'm really happy with the look of it, and it's easy to use. You have many other options. I listed some out on GoHerping.com/ballpythons, but there's also maybe aspen bedding, like lizard litter, aspen chips, different types of bark. Just make sure they're made for reptiles. I never recommend sand for any animals. We can end that another time. Yeah, you'll have the most luck and your animal will be safest on substrates made for them. The best companies to go to are ZoomEd, Exoterra, and Zilla. Those are the companies that I always use supplies from. They're my go-to companies. So what I'm gonna go ahead and do is begin just filling this enclosure. I already measured out basically how much I need for this. I'm gonna be doing this much, and this will allow about 1 to 2 inches of substrate. This looks like just about 1 inch, which is going to be perfect. It allows a barrier between the heat pad and the snake, but we haven't talked about the heat pad yet. We'll get into that later. This is also enough for when the snake is shedding. This will be helpful to it, and it's just all around a good amount. So 1 to 2 inches of whatever safe substrate you choose. Next, a hide. You can buy just about any hide. However, I like these that are real parts of logs. They're like a semi part that's cleaned out just like this. This one I believe is made by ZoomEd. Again, they're a very trustable company because you know it'll be sanitary and sterilized safely for your reptiles. So I'm gonna go ahead and put this in on the left side. You can choose whichever side you want. You just need a couple things to line up. This can go right over the bedding. And this is going to be basically the hot side of the ball python's enclosure. So the best way to do that, firstly, is with a heat pad. Now make sure you buy the correct size pad. This is for a 10-gallon, and this is a 20-gallon tank. So I have a 20-gallon one I'll be using, but just make sure you get the appropriate size. I won't be sticking this on right now, but you're gonna wanna put this to one side of the tank, which allows your ball python to heat up on this if it needs to. I keep these on 24 hours a day, no matter what the season is, because it's just a really good way to make sure your animal will not get too cold, because it can always go and warm up. And because it's only in one spot, it can easily and safely move off of the heat to cool down if it needs to. All you need to really make sure of with the hide is it's big enough for the animal to get in and out of easily. Next, there's water. This is an Exoterra water bowl. They make great water bowls. I love the heavy ones because you don't have to worry about the animal knocking them over. So I'm gonna put this on the opposite side. And when picking out a water bowl, you wanna make sure you have one that's not too big to where the snake can get stuck in it. Snakes can drown. They can stay underwater for a long time, but they can eventually drown. So if you get some massive bowl for a little baby snake, there's a slight chance that it could get stuck. So go with the appropriate size. You also want it to be big enough that they can soak in it if they need to. So this is good for maybe a medium size or large ball python. I'm gonna clear out an opening right here and just stick the water bowl and then just fill it in around with substrate. So next, the actual water. I don't recommend using just straight tap water because it includes multiple chemicals, mostly chlorine is what you're worried about with reptiles. So there's 4 ways you can avoid this. The first way, which I don't really recommend, is going out and just buying distilled water. Doing this is going to end up costing you quite a bit because it's about 80 cents a gallon, and you're going to go through a lot of gallons. With my animals, I've gone through maybe 3 or 4 gallons today already. So yeah, you can do that. Do not buy purified, buy distilled, because it's just straight water, nothing in it. The second way is distill it yourself. You can get jugs, like I actually have some of these water jugs from when I used to buy them. You can fill these with water and simply let them sit out for about 24 hours. That'll let all the chlorine evaporate and it'll be ready to go. You can also boil the water. This is pretty time consuming. If you do want to do that, you can just fill a pot or pan or something with water, let it heat up and boil on the stove. Again, this will take a while, but it is a possible way to do it. And finally, you can use ReptiSafe made by ZooMed. What I do is I use ReptiSafe and I distill it myself to just really make sure there's nothing harmful in the water. So just fill the appropriate drops of this into the water. I calculated 32 drops per gallon, and you just drop those into the water. This is already ready to go. This has been actually out for a couple weeks because I do it basically in a big bulk. So I'm gonna go ahead and fill this water bowl. You wanna replace the water as often as possible. If you wanna be really good about it, then replacing it daily is gonna be best. Or if not, every couple days also works. Water obviously is extremely important, and you want to keep it as sanitary in here as possible. You can fill it to just about the top, just to really make sure the snake always has enough water and it can soak if needed, if it needs to cool down or if it's going through shed. Okay, so temperature and humidity. Many people do it many different ways, and it can be kind of specific, but it's not too hard. You can get the hang of it. So what I have here are 2 little gauges. One gauge is temperature and one gauge is the humidity. Both of these are important for your ball python. So firstly, let's do temperature. So in this room, it looks like it's about 79 degrees Fahrenheit in here. And you're gonna want the hottest side of your tank, or the hottest part, which I'm gonna do over here. It's best to do it away from the water bowl. And that needs to be about 90 degrees Fahrenheit. And then you want the just general average temperature to be about 80 degrees. And the cooler side, it shouldn't drop below 75. So keep it around 75 to 80. Right in between that for the coolest side of the tank. So this is a small area. How do you go about regulating it like that? You can use thermostats, which I've never used. I don't really ever see them available, and I don't know many people that use them. So what I usually do is simply take this and just move it to different parts of the tank. Wait about 5 minutes, make sure it's the right temperature. So how do you heat it up in here? To check the hot side, I would just place it here. And then the best way to do it is, one, because there's a heat pad, that might add a couple degrees to it. And secondly, you can use a heat lamp. This is a more expensive reptile heat lamp made specifically for reptiles, but it's no different than the lamps you can get just at Home Depot or something. This is one of the only ones I actually have as the expensive version, and it's no different. Now, it depends how hot your room is. As I said, so it looks like right now the tank is already 82 degrees. So I need to get that up a few degrees. So I might put a dim bulb in here that lets off light and just enough heat to get that up to about 90 degrees. You can also change that temperature by having it directly on the tank. That'll be really hot, of course. If you clip it on with a clip, it'll be cooler. If you have it even further, it'll be cooler. You want your ball python to have about 12 hours of lighting per day. So you can use a timer, or you can just do it by hand and basically turn that light on in the morning. If, say, maybe you turn it on at 8 a.m. and then turn it off at 8 p.m. So you want them to have that day and night cycle. UVB with them, I don't really know of anyone that uses UVB with snakes or ball pythons specifically. I guess it's not really a bad idea. There could be a benefit, but it's not needed necessarily for them. It is for some animals, and it isn't for others. Okay, so next is humidity. It looks like the humidity in my room is already 50%. I think houses are usually like 30 or 40%, and you want your ball python to be just in between 50 and 60%. Just in case you don't know, humidity is the amount of water in the air. So ball pythons need it a little higher than desert animals, but definitely not as high as tropical animals. So they're more moderate with that. So as you can see, I have this right here. I use this one for the humidity. I just keep it on there at all times. You might actually see it go up just a tiny bit, because the easiest way to get that humidity up to about 50 or 60 is simply by having a water bowl. The water, of course, slowly evaporates over time, and because there's a little bit of heat in the tank, it'll evaporate a bit quicker, and that water in the air is just enough to get it up. If you need it to be higher, you can use reptile foggers and just set it on low setting, follow the instructions on that. You can mist it with some sort of mister, like pump mister or something, every so often. And you can use certain sprays that are used to get the humidity up. It's important that it's not too dry in here, especially if your animal's going through shed. You want it to be able to shed easily and not have that dry skin that's difficult to remove. You don't want the humidity to be too high, because the higher it is, the easier it is for mold and gross stuff and bacteria to grow and dwell in your tank. So be sure to keep it below 60%. And try and keep it above 50% for ball pythons. I forgot to mention, heating at night shouldn't drop below 75. Try and keep it at around 80. It doesn't need a hot spot or a hot area at night. So just have it like maybe 78 or so. Just make sure the heat lamp is off. And you really shouldn't need a nighttime lamp if your room is about 80 degrees or so. Okay, so feeding. Feeding is not a specific thing. I can't just tell you what to feed your snake, because every snake is going to be different. Now I can tell you it's best to do frozen thawed mice or rats, because not only is it more humane on the mouse or rat, but it's safer for your snake. Because if, say, there was a live mice that I dropped in here, you can actually see this in some videos, and then the snake grabs it, that mouse isn't immediately going to die. So it can fight back and possibly bite and injure your snake. Now, if the person you bought your snake from or got it from or whatever was feeding it live, you might have a difficult time getting it back over to frozen thawed, but it is possible. I'm just not sure how, so I can't really tell you that. So size, the normal, I guess, rule you would like to follow for feeding your snakes the correct size, mouse or rat, is by looking at their body and feeding them something about 1.5 times the size of their body. So I'm gonna go ahead and get Sunny to show you. So here he is from his most recent shed. He has a couple scales left, right, near the top of his head. I need to help him get that off. But as you can see, he's pretty thick. He's about average for a ball python though. And he's kind of weird about feeding. He doesn't always eat. Certain ball pythons just won't eat at certain times. Like males generally don't eat around breeding season. They might, but if they don't, then don't freak out. They're probably fine. They can go a long time without food, but I feed mine about once a week. You can also do once about every 5 days if it's smaller food, maybe once every 10 days if it's larger food. What you want to do is look at their body and decide on something about 1.5 times the size of this, or just a little over the size. So I would feed Sunny a small rat. Now he's weird, so I just went ahead and put him in this tank for now. So he's, like I said, he's kind of weird, and I feed him adult mice. I just do it a bit more often if I need to keep his weight correct. So how do you thaw out these mice or rats? I actually have a separate video on that. You can go over and watch that video on the channel, and I can help you out with that. Now, as you can see, he naturally went to his hide. That kind of tells you they don't really need much space. They're always going to go to the hide to keep safe. But unfortunately, I'm going to take him out again to show you handling. Now, it's actually good I put him in, because when you're reaching into your snake's tank, they're not going to be too comfortable with reaching in, because their natural predator is usually a bird of prey. That's the most common predator for snakes. So when they see that coming, it's kind of like there's a bird of prey coming at them. They might get frightened and possibly bite you, completely out of defense and fear. So it's best to remove the hide without putting your fingers around the edge so you don't get bit by accident. And then just simply lifting them. Ball pythons are very slow and calm animals. You're really not going to have a hard time with this. Once it's in your hands, you just need to really keep their whole body secure the best you can so it feels comfortable and it won't fall. Ball pythons are pretty strong, they can squeeze on pretty well, and that's generally just so that they make sure they don't fall, which makes sense. So it's kind of hard to explain handling. You'll just get used to it over time. And they are a bit larger than some other beginner snakes, like corn snakes or garter snakes or king snakes or whatever. But it's definitely still a bit, just look at how slow he is. He's just kind of moving around. He's very slow. You don't need to worry about them escaping or getting away from you. So finally, I'm going to just stick a couple more things into his enclosure so it feels more comfortable and covered for him. It also might make it look a little nicer. I have this fake plant here. You can use live plants. Yeah, you can create a live vivarium for them, but his is not. I also put some of these sterilized sticks. I can talk more about sterilizing things like sticks and stuff in the future, but just having those in makes it look kind of nicer, and the more stuff that's in there could make them usually feel more secure. Okay, Sonny, I think this is ready. If you just recently got your snake, you're going to want to wait a couple days before handling it. There's a chance it may eat, but you really want to make sure it gets used to its new enclosure and its new home before you start really messing with it, because the second thing you'll do is start basically forming a relationship with it and making it learn to know you and know that you are not a threat. So I have more details on feeding on the full care guide at GoHerping.com/ballpythons. I can go ahead and stick this top on just like so. And then again, you want your heat pad under there. You can put your heat lamp on and turn it on and set that bulb up. And that's just about everything I do to keep my ball python healthy and happy in its enclosure with feeding and handling and everything. Hopefully I went over everything that you may need. If there is more, make sure to ask me in the comments or email me. But yeah, this is what I do. Tell me what you might do differently and how it works, and if you think it works well. So maybe you're doing something that'll work better than what I'm doing. So make sure you share that below. But yeah, that's everything for this video. I'm Alex, and thanks for watching.